This video will be very hard for you to follow if you haven't watched my previous videos about Alkaline. But he is far more intelligent and powerful than you think he is, even if you already think he's intelligent. I'll be explaining how this is so. I was going insane due to a spiritual awakening. And during that time, it's almost like my mind wasn't my own. I was saying a lot of crazy shit about Alkaline because I was very mentally unstable. A lot of the things I did and said during that time, I really didn't have much control over it. But it's been a very humbling experience having less intelligent people think that I'm insane. I need to be medicated. But I know that this man is actually really intelligent, and that did remind me like how somebody could be this calculated and intelligent, right? So the thing is that they know that I'm smart, but they still think I'm crazy anyway because they cannot believe that he is that smart, if you get what I'm saying. So I realized that the only way to prove that he is actually a genius is for me to be very open about certain things that I would have otherwise kept to myself. Like the Bible says, what is done in the dark must come to light. First of all, let me make it clear that apart from his ability to have visions and premonitions of the future, he is able to astral project. Astral projection is a voluntary out-of-body experience that allows someone to project their consciousness to a particular place or even specific moments in time. This means that he can spy on people without them being aware of it. He admitted to being able to do this when he said, "Been a watch it in and out and you didn't even realize," and when he mentioned Ultra Instinct, which apparently is this Dragon Ball Z thing where the consciousness separates from the body. Yes, he did get these powers from his ancestors because he's chosen to heal their bloodline. This is not some kind of conspiracy theory because since losing my mind, I developed similar abilities. That's why I see the mind games he's been playing, so let me walk you through it. I archived my video about twin flame telepathy way before most of you found my channel, and I know that he watched it because I said, I feel like this man is somewhere up there with Einstein. I released that video March 13th and New Rules Miami was March 27th. I didn't even realize that he was dressing like Einstein, but his fans did. So I'll be talking to him in this video too, but the details are for y'all because him and God already know what he's been up to. Let's start with how it feels, because he said things she didn't know she may talk. First of all, I couldn't fathom why I would know at that time, especially because all of the songs that were specific to my life were released from 2016 onwards. I came to the conclusion that it must have been something in Leviticus or whatever that he was expecting me to recognize. I don't know what you were thinking, but I know what you weren't thinking. You weren't thinking that I need to go to UA to get a degree in science to make sense of all of this. So it was driving me mad trying to figure out what you really expected from me and why. Whole time I was like, I know I'm mad because of the pandemic, but why the brother am mad? Then I realized it might have been because he was angry and suicidal, so God started giving him visions of the future so he wouldn't kill himself or do some stupid shit. Whenever you hold me, baby, me no bother want be that me no bother want become a jail. In spoiler as well, he claims that it's a girl who's been keeping him calm. He said if him have a woman like me and he doesn't plan to hide his and the way how him talk about wanting to show off the woman he loves or how he would treat somebody he loves. I've never seen him doing that. So it must be an imaginary woman keeping him calm. I can say this though, the past few years that I've been remembering my connection to spirit, he was keeping me calm. So that instead of using witchcraft to harm people, I was using it to heal myself and evolve. There are at least 3 songs with extremely accurate details of what was going on in my life around the time of their release. I briefly touched on No Wife in the previous video, but the first one to really shape me was Extra Lesson. Now, Black and Delete was released a few months after I lost my virginity. And I hear him cussing about, do what you want to your body and before me carry in a danger zone, blah, blah, blah. Once again, I was stressed, wondering why he thought I'd think an artist I've never met in my life is telling me to speak now or forever hold my own. But anyways, let's fast forward to when I prayed to God for revenge against a particular man. I already gave the details of that story, but I said that prayer maybe sometime in the summer of 2020. October though, the full moon started driving me crazy and the simulation was glitching. So I said, let me listen to my favorite artist to calm me down. Eventually, I ended up listening to Extra Lesson, and when he said the short girl, something clicking in my brain, and I was like, wait, why does Wasteman sound like Kimani? When I listen to the song now, the details are on point. All those years before that prayer, that song had no meaning to me. He said, idiot boy, and you make she know me, and idiot boy, you make it easier for me. That in itself was a prophecy or a manifestation, because that was genuinely the first song that made me recognize him, and he knew that it would be. Because Alkaline seems to be very jealous and possessive. His emotions gave him away several times, and that's how I knew I wasn't tripping. Because if it sounded like you're cussing out one man that was involved with me, then maybe it's just a coincidence or I'm me mad. But two, one was the first one I had sex with, and the second was the first man I actually liked. As in, he was almost my first love. He literally said, talk it to me, go so I forget it, girl. So he knows that word sky spells. I realize that nobody else can hear the spells and letters tonight, and I can't bother to get into that right now. But Alkaline said, when a week to girl. And the guy that I liked was a jealous person. He literally threatened to stalk me when I told him if he doesn't act right, I'm now run him down. I already had reason to suspect that he did follow through on that threat, but Alkaline literally said, him a tracker and a watcher security, which confirmed it to me. But when he said she had proposed to me, have her down on her knees, that was basically him manifesting that things would go his way instead. When a week to girl was impressed upon that man's subconscious mind, and even though he used to tell people I'd be his future wife, and he told me that he'd do anything for me, we don't talk anymore. At first I thought it was because he was just trash and didn't actually like me, but a few months later I realized what or who the real problem really was. It sounds crazy, it sounds like a wild accusation, but he literally stopped in the middle of his cussing to ask me, no fool man, tell me if I'm right or I'm wrong, girl fuck up me get another one. There's also something else in the song that's a dead giveaway, but I'm not going to mention it. But in general, this song makes me feel many emotions, including anger, so let's move on. Years ago, on one of my edible strips, someone said I kept on saying, he's stalking me. And at the time, I had no idea why I would have said that, but when I went mad, all of my edible strips started making more sense.
What I have to keep in check, isn't it? And check up on you, isn't it?
Months before the album was released, I sensed a presence in the room that I identified as him, so I said, I feel like humans can live forever for real. That means we could be together forever, but it doesn't have to be forever if you don't want it to be. I confirmed that the presence was really him, and he did hear me. But he also mentioned my hair that used to be processed. Even if I did not know that natural hair connects you to the cosmos, I went back natural by accident, but that's a different story. Cultural linguistics are important. That's why I'm mentioning Queen in the Deck by Massacre. He and Alkaline are Jamaican men, so their use of language might be similar. Massacre said blessing in a panty real top prize, and he had a storm a top prize, which made me infer that Jamaican men refer to their ideal woman as a top prize. The cover art has 2 first place medals. I'm assuming that the other medal is for Alkaline's top prize. Being dependent on marijuana keeps you stagnant at a certain level of consciousness. Because I'm not dependent on it and I've found healthy ways of coping with life, I've been able to elevate way past his level of consciousness. He said, remember the tour when I started, sir. And yes, I now remember. That is why I've been telling you my story of how during the pandemic I started remembering that I'm reincarnated. But he also said, what did want me to remember? And I believe that he doesn't remember properly, because if he remembered who he was, he'd be acting much differently. I could actually do a whole video on how I know Alkaline has access to the Alkaline Daily account and tell you my theory on why he really deactivated the old Twitter. But even though Alkaline Daily was key to me piecing things together, that's not really important right now. He said he's going to pull a surprise, so when I heard one last moment of drama, I knew it was time for the surprise. But at that time, me and God were at war over why would I give a man so much control over me. But this is Black History Month, so black people, let me talk to you in particular right now. Christianity taught us that magic is demonic, but Christians literally believe in magic. They believe that Moses parted an entire sea with a rod and that Jesus turned water into wine. them drinking wine and eating bread, symbolic of blood and flesh. Now, I hate to break it to y'all, but that is a form of witchcraft. Christianity has colonial origins and is a form of mental and spiritual slavery that has been taking power from black people. So, when I decided to finally free my mind from it, I entered into an entirely different type of spiritual crisis. He said enemies can't get to me, better look out for a snake, which means that he knew one day I'd know how to do protection magic, and he's right. But we both know unnecessary violence is not the answer. We're here to break generational curses, but a big generational curse is women staying with men who cause them pain and misery, and that's just never gonna be me. I worked too hard for my peace and happiness. I kept having to remind myself that we are our ancestors' wildest, most magical dream come true, so I had to push through to this point. Alkaline, I know you were expecting things to go a particular way. The way how you said fucking hell at the beginning of No Wife, I know you never expect me to go mad like that. I know that this is not how you planned things, but when God loves you differently, He makes sure that things go better than you even planned it. You have no idea how much God had to threaten me with hell to reach this point, and that was traumatic for me because I didn't even believe in hell my entire life. So if anybody wants to say, oh, you do witchcraft, you're going to hell, actually, if I'm doing anything that can land me in hell, God will let me know, so mind your own fucking business. But when a friend from mine, so God got real creative to let me know, if you don't do your best to help my son, you're going to hell. But he cannot hold anything against me now, because when I'm supposed to beg Alkaline to talk to me, I have suffered enough because of him, and there's nothing else I can do. If you don't want to heal and evolve with me, our ancestors did not spend centuries on plantations for either one of us to fuck this up, and it's out of my hands now. But for everyone who's been keeping up with my story, I'm going to eventually tell you how I had to pretend that this was a normal, toxic relationship for me to work through this.
Never see a phone so strong.